Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Bridges, Cook, Quorum, Court, Crowder, Danielson, Donovan, Finberg, Fields, Foote, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hill, Heisey, Holbert, Lee, Lundeen, Marble, Moreno, Pedersen, Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story, Tate, Todd, Williams, Winter, Woodward, Zenzinger, Mr. President.
Here, with 35 present, 0 absent, and 0 excused, we have a quorum. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate suspend the rules, specifically Rule 1B, for the purpose of someone other than a senator to do the Pledge of Allegiance this morning.
You have heard the motion to suspend the rules, specifically 1B, for the purposes of allowing a non-member to say the Pledge of Allegiance. The motion requires a 2/3 majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Members, please welcome this morning to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Sienna Snook, Senator Winter's daughter, a student at STEM Lab in North Glen.
Okay. Happy Pi Day. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the journal. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal of Wednesday, March 13th, 2019 be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Committee reports.
March 13th, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services, Executive Mayor's Committee as following: Senate Bill 4, be amended as follows. Submitted to be referred to Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 13th, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee as following: House Bill 1004, be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. March 13th, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee as following: House Bill 1069, be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee as the following: House Bill 1150, be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee as the following: House Bill 1038, be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. March 13, 2019, Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee as the following: Senate Bill 54, be amended as follows: amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 13, 2019, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee as following: Senate Bill 166, be amended as follows: amended be referred to Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 13, 2019, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee as following: Senate Bill 136, be amended as follows: amended be referred to Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 13, 2019, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee as following: House Bill 1180, be referred to Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 13, 2019, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee recommends the following: House Bill 1155, be referred to Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar.
Senate Services.
Correctly printed, Senate Bill 195, 196, and 197 correctly engrossed. Senate Bill 164, 65, 86, 94, 99, and 139 correctly re-engrossed. Senate Bill 147, 148, 168, and 181 correctly revised. House Bill 1001, 1113, 1041, 1068 correctly re-revised. House Bill 1137.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed out of order for purposes of moments of personal privilege.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and the Senator will proceed out of order for moments of personal privilege. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, yesterday was a messy day in Colorado. Many of us struggled to get home and probably cursed at a car or two on our way home, maybe. Our shoes got messed up. It was just a messy day. It was inconvenienced. It inconvenienced us and many folks. And we heard about it in the news. We read about funny stories on Twitter and trees falling down. And it was a typical spring snowstorm in Colorado in many ways, and the havoc that it can wreak. But yesterday was also a day when an individual who serves our state was doing what he does every single day, and he was simply helping somebody. That's his job, because he's a state trooper. And unfortunately, his day was not inconvenienced. It was much worse, and it ended tragically for him when he lost his life when he was helping somebody on the side of the highway, and what I understand is a car lost control and hit him. I want to make sure we spend a few moments this morning honoring Corporal Dan Groves, who my understanding is was close with many of the folks that protect us every single day here at the Capitol. And so I would ask that if you, or when you see State Patrol in the building over the next few days, that you say thank you to them and let them know that you're thinking about them and their entire family. Captain Dan Haley sent a couple of thoughts to me last night about Dan. He said, Corporal Groves had come from out of state to Colorado to serve its citizens and was proud to become a Colorado State Trooper. He joined the Colorado State Patrol on July 16, 2007, and has served along the I-70, I-25, and I-76 corridors and lent his expertise in IT to everyone that needed it, serving the CSP Business Intelligence Unit. He left an indelible mark on all of those that had the privilege to work with him. He always had a smile, had a huge laugh, and a kind word even when correcting your grammar. His fairness and dedication to the truth ran through all aspects of his life, never one to back down from a good discussion about issues. His dedication to service was shown in his last act, helping a motorist in a snowstorm. The Colorado State Patrol is a better agency because of his service, and the state of Colorado a better place. Mr. President, I think some other folks who want to say a couple of words about this loss this morning, after which I hope we can do a moment of silence and have the chimes rung. Thank you, members, for this moment.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
It's never an easy day, members, when we have a death in the family, especially a senseless death, where roads were closed and he was trying to help those that happened to be out there even when roads are closed. Doing what he loved to do, and that was serve. You know, I got a message from a very close friend of mine who used to be a pilot for the State Patrol, who went to the academy with Corporal Groves, and he sent me this message, which I think says it all, quite frankly. It says, Corporal Groves is a true brother in blue. I have never met a man with a bigger heart. During the long and hard days in the academy, his desire to serve was obvious. No matter what the task, he was always calm and proud to be a CSP trooper. Members, we will miss him. We will miss all of those, quite frankly, that we lose as they try to protect us, whether it be on the highways, whether it be here at the Capitol, whether it be in our everyday lives. I hope we never forget that. I hope we never forget the dedication that they come with, knowing that they may pay the ultimate cost in doing what it takes to serve those people they love. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did not know Corporal Groves. He got transferred to Greeley about the same time I came down here. He got promoted, and so he got moved to the Greeley troop. How appropriate, though, last week we did the first responder resolution, and I'd like to read just a little bit of it in memory of Corporal Groves, because he certainly fits in all of this. Whereas individuals, both career and volunteer, including police, fire, emergency, medical services, search and rescue, and other organizations in the public safety sector come together as a collective to aid the public in the event of an emergency. That certainly was yesterday. Whereas first responders are a vital part of our communities, not only standing ready to deal with emergencies, but also volunteering in our schools, community organizations. And I'm certainly, that fits him too. Whereas thousands of first responders have made the ultimate sacrifice, including police and sheriff's patrol officers who have an estimated fatality rate of 14.6 per 100,000 workers, more than twice the national average. A number that includes 3 officers who died in the line of duty in Colorado in 2018. Corporal Groves is the first one to die this year in the line of duty. CSP has suffered 4 of these type of fatalities in the last 4 years. 4 CSP troopers were standing out of their vehicle helping other people when they were killed in the line of duty. Senseless and needless kind of death. So many of these tragedies can be avoided if people just pay attention to what they're doing. It's no secret, my former life as a law enforcement officer, whenever another officer was killed in the line of duty, a little bit of every law enforcement officer died at the same time. And I contend today that a little bit of everybody in the state of Colorado has died a little bit today as well. And so thank you, Mr. President. Please keep his family in his prayers, in your prayers and your thoughts. Thank you.
Senator Marble.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and I also request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. 11:20 a.m. How many 11:20 a.m.s have we had? And yet for Corporal Daniel Groves and his partner, his family, world came to an end, so to speak, yesterday. I echo the sentiments of my fellow colleagues about this incident. I just want to call for each of us, and we do. We are so great about always remembering the people who serve us. The Colorado Highway Patrol, all law enforcement, but look who else is out there. the National Guard, all those people. Keep them, along with Corporal Daniel Groves and his family, in your prayers, not just this storm, but all storms that come through the state of Colorado. And may their families know the debt of gratitude that we owe these people, these brave people who give their lives so that we can go about our lives as normal. We thank them and we grieve for Corporal Daniel Groves. Thank you.
Senator Fields.
Good morning, Mr. President. I would like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. You know, it's really difficult when someone in law enforcement loses their life in the line of duty. I had the unique opportunity to go to the academy where many of these troopers are trained. The curriculum is rigorous. It's competitive to even get through the process. And to want to be a trooper, you know, it just takes a unique type of person who has the courage and the bravery to be in the line of duty. My good friend and colleague from, I think it's Parker, passed a bill. Don't recall the bill number, but it was like, move over. Because a lot of times we get to be so busy when we're driving, we're not aware of a trooper or officer or a sheriff just trying to help someone, and they get struck by a vehicle. When they're just trying to do their job, trying to do the right thing to help somebody that's in need. If you hear a siren that's going off while you're driving down the road, pull over. Pull over. Slow down. We're all busy. But once again, we have a corporal, Dan Groves, who lost his life. I'm just reading from what I hear in the newspaper that someone was just driving too fast. He got struck and lost his life. And his end of watch is over. As citizens, as neighbors, we all have an opportunity to be mindful of those who are out there to protect and serve. No matter how busy you are, please pull over. Slow down. Let's do all we can to protect those who are protecting us. To the family and to the Colorado State Patrol, you have my condolences. I know how difficult it is when you lose one. It has an impact on the whole entire family. We grieve with you, and we thank you for your service. Every time I come into this building, you're there, making sure that no one harms us. We appreciate your service. And we are so deeply saddened that this has happened within your family. We will never forget. Please move over and slow down.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the Assistant Majority Leader for remembering the Move Over for Cody bill and the resolution and the unanimous support that we provided to it. Yesterday, I'm sure, was a very difficult day for the Donahue family and the Jurcevics family and all troopers. Yesterday, when I left the Capitol and worked my way slowly to my home in Douglas County, I had my vehicle in four-wheel drive and tried to stay out of the way because there were inevitably those cars that were driving much faster. As I got down to the county line right there about Park Meadow Mall, it's always nice to get back to Douglas County. But then as I approached 470, I noticed that traffic was slowing. As I approached Lincoln Avenue, we moved to the right lane, and that's where I exit. And the wind was blowing ferociously. It was a whiteout. As we got up to the exit ramp at Lincoln Avenue, I saw this shape off to my left come out of the snow. And it was that recognizable uniform. There was a state trooper running through that blowing snow, waving his arms, trying to get people to slow down and stop. As I went up the off-ramp, the wind subsided briefly, and I could see that there were 6 or 8 cars all twisted around, spun around, facing the wrong directions, and in the middle of it, a semi-truck. I don't know what had happened there, but my heart stopped. That trooper was putting his life on the line, running through that whiteout to tell people like us, slow down. There are injured people in their cars here. There's no way through. 5 or 6 lanes of southbound I-25 were blocked by a very significant accident, and yet he was putting his life on the line to let people like us know that there was danger ahead. And the thought occurred to me, oh, please God, don't let someone hit that trooper. And then I got home and heard about Daniel. And here we are again. The horror of that moment in my car of, please God, don't let this happen. I think it was after this happened to Daniel. But Captain, I'm so grateful for you being here with us. We here in the Capitol, all of us, Republicans, Democrats, staff, members, everyone, we are grateful to work with you and for what you do here. Just this week, I was driving to the Capitol early one morning and noticed flashing lights at the north side of the Capitol. I don't know the details, but when I entered, I asked the trooper, what happened? Well, there was a disturbance up on the first floor, and the state troopers protected those there and all of us. I don't know the details. I remember during the Ritter administration, the troopers responded to someone who came in with the worst intentions and put a stop to that. We take those troopers so for granted. They do their job and they ask so little in return. And to say thank you just doesn't measure. But we are proud, I am proud to be here with you. And if you would allow us to consider ourselves to be part of your family, that is a huge blessing. We pray for yours. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. From what I've been able to learn in the past 24 hours from folks that knew him and from reading online, it sounds like perhaps it was my loss that I didn't know. Corporal Groves, who lost his life yesterday at the age of 52. So I do not know him, but I do. Because he is the same trooper who protects a citizen with their car who's changing a tire near a rifle on the side of the road as cars speed past. He is the same trooper who slows down traffic on an icy turn up to Leadville. He is the same trooper who gives the snowplows that protective space to do their work while slowing down people that are all too anxious to make it to the ski slopes and start their weekend over Vail Pass. On late nights, he's that trooper who is perhaps the only lights that I see for hours, traveling on the same section of road that I am from some far corner of the state. He's that same trooper who on whiteouts through South Pass leads a car or vehicles with his hazards on because he knows the road better than we do. Or perhaps it's the same trooper who sits in the median and flashes their lights real quickly to give me a little reminder that I'm going a little too fast and I need to slow down a little bit. So I did not know him, but I feel that I do, because many of us who travel these roads, those cars are the ones that get us out of situations, who remind us of safety, and by the smallest gesture of a flash of a lights or the grand moments of when they are our local heroes, they let us know them through their actions as a collective community. My thoughts are with him, his family, and his fellow Colorado State Patrol troopers who sadly had to add black to their badge yesterday. Thank you, Mr. President.
Having no further discussion, the Senate will be in a moment of silence to honor the life of Corporal Dan Groves, and as Senate chimes will be rung. Thank you, members. Third reading of bills, consent. Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, please read the titles to all the bills on the consent calendar.
House Bill 1001 by Representative Kennedy, Senators Moreno and Rankin, concerning hospital transparency measures required to analyze the efficacy of hospital delivery system reform incentive payments. House Bill 1068 by Representative Martin, Senator Moreno, concerning the elimination of the requirement that the State Board of Health comply with certain statutory requirements concerning the preparation of operational planning functions, as if the State Board were the Executive Director of the Department of Public Health and Environment. House Bill 1041 by Representative Buckner and Senator Rodriguez, concerning the prevention of human exposure to surgical smoke during surgery at certain licensed healthcare facilities. Senate Bill 1 by Senator Garcia and Representative Mateo, concerning the expansion of the medication-assisted treatment expansion pilot program, in connection therewith shifting administration of the program from the College of Nursing to the Center for Research into Substance Use Disorder Prevention, Treatment, and Recovery Support Strategies, expanding the counties that may participate in the program, extending the duration of the program, increasing the funding for the program, and making an appropriation. Senate Bill 64 by Senator Lee and Representative Weissman, concerning retention of criminal justice programs funding. Senate Bill 65 by Senator Garcia and Representative Exum, concerning the creation of a peer health assistance program for emergency medical service providers, and in connection therewith making an appropriation. Senate Bill 94 by Senators Lundin and Todd, Representative Garnett, concerning the Legislative Interim Committee on School Finance.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the passage of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1001, House Bill 1068, House Bill 1041, Senate Bill 1, Senate Bill 64, Senate Bill 65, and Senate Bill 94.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing no discussion on any of the bills on the passage of the consent calendar, are there any no votes on any of the bills? Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1001 and House Bill 1041.
Senator Marble will be requested as a no vote on those bills. Are there any other no votes on any of the third reading bills consent calendar? With a vote of 34 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1001 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Bridges, Janal, Winter, Court, Donovan, Williams, Rodriguez, Todd, the Majority Leader, Danielson, Lee, Pedersen, Quorum. Please add the President. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1068 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senator Tate. With a vote of 34 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1041 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Gonzalez, Janal, Winter, Crowder, Todd, with a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 1 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Bridges, the Majority Leader, Danielson, Janal, Foote, Williams, Zenzinger, Todd, Gonzalez, Priola, Heisey, Tate, Story, Rodriguez, Court, Donovan, Crowder, Pedersen, Winter. With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 64 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senator Gonzalez, the Majority Leader, Williams, Winter, Todd, Janal, Story. Please add the President. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 065 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Crowder, the Majority Leader, Janal, Todd, Gonzalez, Cook, Gardner, Woodward, Rankin, Tate, Danielson, Zenzinger, Winter, Story, Rodriguez, Quorum, Donovan, Williams, Priola, Bridges. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 94 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Bridges, Gardner, Rankin, Janal, Story, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Court, Third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1113.
House Bill 1113 by Representatives Roberts and McLaughlin and Senator Donovan, concerning the protection of water quality from adverse impacts caused by mineral mining.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1113 on third and final reading and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
The motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1113 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? The Minority Leader, Senators Marble, Cook, Sonnenberg, Gardner, Lundin, Woodward, Tate, Smallwood, Scott, Hill, Heisey, Priola. With a vote of 22 ayes, 13 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1113 is passed. Co-sponsors. The Majority Leader. Senators Danielson, Lee, Janal, Winter, Story, Pedersen, Bridges, Rodriguez. Please add the President. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 99.
Senate Bill 99 by Senator Todd and Representative Tipper concerning the Revised Uniform Athlete Agents Act 2015 and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I move Senate Bill 99 on third and final reading and ask for your aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Senate Bill 99, consisting of 27 pages, is a new regulatory scheme for the Revised Uniform Athletes Agents Act. I have carried this bill in the past. It has been a bill that has failed in committee primarily because there are those who don't think that the regulatory scheme is necessary. To be quite honest, and I've been candid with my colleagues on the Uniform Law Commission, I am torn about whether or not this is necessary in Colorado. It is complex, it is long, and under Article 5, Section 22 of the Constitution, it is required to be read at length on 2 consecutive days unless there is unanimous consent to waive such readings. Our Rule 11 presumes that unanimous consent. After due consideration, it is my belief that I wish to affirmatively state my consent that it not be read at length. And I encourage you to vote as you wish to on Senate Bill 99, given the pros and cons of that bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 99? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 99 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senator Sonnenberg, Heisey, Lundin, Marble, Hill, Gardner, Rankin, Cook, Scott, Woodward, Tate, Minority Leader, Smallwood. With a vote of 22 ayes, 13 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 99 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Janal, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 139.
Senate Bill 139 by Senators Quorum, Memorandum, and Representatives Galindo and Singer concerning the issuance by the Department of Revenue of identification documents to people who are not lawfully present in Colorado on a permanent basis in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 139 on third reading, final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 139 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? The Minority Leader, Senators Lundin, Marble, Heisey, Woodward, Hill, Cook, Gardner, Scott, Smallwood. With a vote of 25 ayes, 10 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 139 is passed. Co-sponsors. Majority Leader. Senators Rodriguez, Court, Foot, Janal, Winter, Todd, Gonzalez, Lee, Tate. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 086.
Senate Bill 86 by Senator Lee and Representative Byrd concerning updates to the laws governing business entities in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 86 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 086? Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I thank my colleague from El Paso County for bringing Senate Bill 86, an important bill, technically complex, however, consisting of 110 pages. The bill updates the laws governing business entities, and there are probably only a handful of us in this chamber that have dealt with the rather complex details of Title VII of the Colorado Revised Statutes. Again, a bill that might benefit from reading at length, but so complex that I'm not sure that a single reading at length at this point would benefit anyone, because it would need to be compared to the current version of the bill. I urge your support of this because it does need to happen, and the Colorado Bar Association has vetted this bill at some length to arrive at what is a good revision to modernize, harmonize, and make our business entity provisions conform with current practices in the business world. I urge and I vote.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 086? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 86 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 086 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Crowder, Cook, Gardner, Smallwood, Rankin, Priola, Tate, Scott. General orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for considerations, general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Danielson will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please read the titles to all the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
House Bill 1043 by Representative Galindo and Senator Danielson concerning the ability of life care institutions to post a surety bond as a form of required reserve.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for the adoption of the whole bill and nothing but the bill on the consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1043.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before us is the adoption of the bill on the general orders, second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
Senate will come to order. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the report. I'm sorry, Mr. President. The committee has had one bill under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will begs the report set on consideration of the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof makes the following recommendation. Number 1, House Bill 1043 passes second read order, revised place calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize for the improper motion before, but now I move the adoption of the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1043 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General order, second reading of bills. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills. And Senator Danielson will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. Mr. Carpenter. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1172 until Monday, March 18th, 2019.
The motion before us is to lay over House Bill 1172 at the request of the Majority Leader. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The bill will be laid over one day.
2 days. Till Monday.
Sorry, folks. I misheard the Majority Leader. The bill will be laid over till Monday. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 182 lay over until tomorrow, Friday, March 15th.
The motion before us is to lay over Senate Bill 182 till Friday, March 15th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 182 will be laid over till Friday the 15th. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 129 to the end of General Order second reading of bills calendar.
Motion before us is to move Senate Bill 129 to the end of today's calendar, General Orders calendar. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 129 will be moved to the end of today's General Orders calendar. Mr. Carpenter. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of Senate Bill 12.
Senate Bill 12 by Senator Cort and Representative Melton concerning the use of mobile electronic devices while driving.
Senator Cort.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, today we're going to talk about making our roads safer. Just a week ago, we had, oh, I need to move Senate Bill 12. Thank you. Now, let's talk about making our roads safer. Just a week ago, we had the honor of talking about first responders. But before we talk about our first responders any further, our marvelous minority leader is reminding me that I also have to move the Appropriations Committee and the Transportation Committee reports.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. Why don't you go ahead and move the bill properly and the committee reports?
I move Senate Bill 12 and the Appropriations Committee and the Transportation Committee reports. I was so anxious to talk about safety, I skipped that part. Thank you.
Madam President Pro Tem, would you like to continue to talk about the bill or address the committee reports at this time?
Committee reports must be addressed first, I realize that.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. To the Transportation and Energy Committee report.
During the Transportation and Energy Committee, we changed the fine structure so that the first fine would be $50, 2 points, and the judge may, and we changed it to traffic offense versus misdemeanor. We also changed the second offense amount, and we changed the third offense amount. And I won't go through those because I know there's another amendment to this report to change them further. So I won't go into what we did then because I know we're about to change it further.
Well, Madam President Pro Tem, the question before us is the adoption of the Transportation Committee report. Are you hoping to amend the report? There's an amendment at the desk.
So,
Madam,
okay, thank you.
Madam President Pro Tem, would you like to adopt the report before we go into amendments? Excellent. The question before us is the adoption of the Transportation Committee report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. Senator Court. Senator Heisey. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment L013.
Amendment L013, Senate Bill 12.
Senator Heisey.
thank you, Madam Chair. I would move Amendment L013. And what this does, on the first offense, it does nothing. It still stays at $50 and 2 points. On the second offense, it brings the dollar amount down from $150 to $200, and the correct. Thank you. Thank you. Brings it down from $150 to $100, and the points down from 4 points to 2. And on the third offense, it brings the dollar amount from $300 down to $200, but the points remain the same at 4.
Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the sponsor for working with us on this amendment. We think that it's important that while we're working to change behavior, that we have limited points that are going to be accrued for people against their license, as well as limited fines. I think that over time we will change behavior around this, but when you think about the costs for people who are in poverty for having a 2-point ticket on top of $50 and $100, it's still a lot because of the increase in costs for insurance. So this is still a very big deal, and I appreciate the sponsor for working with us to make it a little bit better for those who will struggle to pay for it.
Senator Court. Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to point out that if you drive a newer vehicle, this bill will have little to no effect on you because your car likely already has some form of hands-free, and so it's those that are driving the older vehicles that are most impacted or most likely to be impacted, and hence less likely to be able to afford a fine of the higher magnitude. And I would like to thank the bill sponsor for working with us on this, and I urge an aye vote on L013.
Is there Senator Court?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, members, this is a tough bill to get the fines and points appropriate. And I realized that. And so I worked with members of the Transportation Committee and with the good senator from Fountain and from Jefferson County, and these are the compromises we came up with, and I agree that this is a friendly amendment. So I hope everyone will support it. Thank you.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I think I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I don't think by lowering this is the way to go. If we're going to be tough on this situation, you ought to be tough on it instead of waffling and bringing that price down. It's not about being able to afford it. It's about adhering to the law, which these textings have actually done a lot of damage in this state. And it's actually all ages that people have been involved in. So I would ask for a no on this amendment.
Is there further, Senator Court?
Thank you to the good senator from the Arkansas Valley, and I don't disagree that this is something we need to be very attentive to, but as we all know, when we're down here, we make compromises to get legislation done, and that's what we've done, and I appreciate the work everyone has helped to make this the best bill we can make it.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. Is there further discussion on Amendment L013? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L013. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. Amendment L013 is adopted. To the committee report. Senator Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Appropriations Committee report, all we did in appropriations was add the appropriations clause. So I ask for a yes vote on the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. The question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The Appropriation Committee report is adopted. To the bill. Senator Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, to the bill. A week ago, we honored first responders. In my mind, this bill further honors them because they are the ones that have to go out there on the highways and be traumatized by dealing with the accidents caused by distracted driving. Doing this and trying to drive is never safe. This is dangerous. You know, folks, when I was a child, you know, back in the days that dinosaurs roamed the earth, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have cell phones, and we managed to figure out how to get from point A to point B without even having to have a cell phone to talk about. But furthermore, there was a huge public addiction crisis going on during that time. It was smoking. And it took a public health crisis to make our country realize that smoking kills. The executive director of the Sheriff's Department, Chris Johnson, came to committee and talked about how using our electronic devices has become addictive behavior. We are now in a public health crisis over the danger that using these behind the wheel is causing. This is a serious public health crisis, and I will tell you that motorcyclists, bicycles, the disabled, law enforcement, insurance companies, students, and the EMS group all recognize it. Hundreds of thousands of people all over our state recognize how severe this crisis is because they're getting killed. Flat out fact. We have had distracted driving accidents in the last several years of just in 2014, this is the most recent data I have, it was 14,004. In 2015, it had risen to 1,748, not 14,000, 1,404, and in 2015, 1,748. And it has been escalating. This is not anything anyone should do. Your car is not a moving phone booth. You know, we were talking about this earlier. When you're behind the wheel, yeah, you're busy. You should be busy paying attention to the road. That's what you should be busy doing, not paying attention to your phone. It's an important issue that we all need to support. This is not a partisan issue. I have friends here with whom I have been working for 3 years on this issue of distracted driving. They are registered in all different parties, and I have some high school students who are here with us today who are passionate about this as well. These people recognize how dangerous it is to hold a phone and try to drive at the same time. I urge you all to recognize the importance of this issue and to vote to protect lives. Plain and simple. That's all this is about, is saving lives on our roads. With that, I respectfully request an aye vote on oh, no, wait, I have an amendment I want to bring forward. Sorry, I forgot that.
There's an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment L011.
Amendment L011.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an amendment that was brought to us by professionals who have to use like two-way radios and things like that. And so this amendment simply says that if it is a professional acting within the scope of the employment and it is required and necessary by the employment provision that the person use an electronic device handheld, then they are exempt. So we brought this because of requests from different people. So I move Amendment 11 and ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on Amendment L011? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L011. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Amendment L011 is adopted. Senator Court.
Thank you. The minority leader was a little distracted there. He wasn't quite certain about the content of this amendment, but I think he'll catch up with us. Fortunately, he's not behind the wheel right now, so it's okay. There is one other component to this, though, that I failed to mention. I don't think it will matter, but that has to do with commercial drivers, and we are working to continue to figure out these details as we go over to the House. So we don't need to reconsider that at all. So with that, I have proposed the amendments that I have, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 12? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our Senate President Pro Tem for bringing this bill forward. You know, I've heard a lot of questions from constituents on a particular issue that I would like for our Madam President Pro Tem to address, and that is how this could impact drivers of color who constantly are who find themselves being pulled over at disproportionate rates compared to white drivers. Can the President Pro Tem please address this issue? Thank you.
Madam President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my colleague from Denver. I have statistics here, and if I go through them, it will bore everybody, but I will give this sheet to you. I will simply say that the statistics based on the texting law that we did 3 years ago shows that there is no racial profiling going on related to cell phone use behind the wheel. And I'm happy to give you these statistics. But furthermore, during committee, we heard from various members of different communities that they were very concerned that, in fact, more people in the communities of color, disabled community, and people of less means were more likely to get injured as well. So this bill will not, as written, cause any racial profiling. And in fact, the statistics I have from the State Patrol from historically show that it hasn't. I will want to point out that racial profiling laws are on the books, and I was a proud sponsor of those laws, co-sponsor of those laws when they came through several years ago, working with my colleagues from both sides of the aisle to make sure that the law enforcement in this state does not do any racial profiling, regardless of why somebody would get pulled over. So thank you for the question, and here's the statistics.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that the good senator from Denver can relax a little bit, because as one of 2 members that I'm aware of in the Senate that have commercial driver's license, there may be more, but you don't have to worry about commercial driver's license, because it is already federal motor carrier restrictions. And the fines in that, if you're caught using is $2,750. The employer can be fined up to $11,000. So the commercial driving industry has been aware of this for a while. You know, I've had a lot of people talking to me about this bill, and yay and nay. I always use hands-free. It's just a lesson that I learned a few years ago. I went to a funeral. My cousin's son-in-law was riding his motorcycle and turning into his driveway. This is in western Oklahoma. And turning left, a driver who was out checking oil rigs, his phone rang. He reached down to pick up the phone, not realizing my cousin's son-in-law was making a left turn, saw the incident, out of reflex, immediately tried to go around. So he killed the young man. It's devastated a family. So I think it's something that you need to think about. It is, there is no phone call, no text worth anyone's life. And I'm asking for your support on this bill.
Thank you, Senator Quorum. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if the bill sponsor could help me understand the use of a device. I see maybe older cars that have a cell phone or other device in a holder that's often a suction cup on a piece of glass, usually the front windshield, or somehow mounted to the dashboard. And I've noticed users, whether moving or stationary, reaching up and tapping on a map or something. Is that kind of activity prohibited? I was interested by the earlier discussion of maybe people of more limited means who are driving, or people who choose to drive an older vehicle that doesn't have the more modern Bluetooth wireless. I think most cars today, you can operate these things from the steering wheel with different buttons. But what about people who are using maybe a cell phone in a device, a holder that is with a suction cup hanging from their windshield? Are they allowed to touch that while they're driving, or while it's stationary? Does it make sense, or does it make a difference?
Madam President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question from my good colleague from Douglas County. Yes, on page 1, on line 26, although the use of either hand may be necessary to activate, deactivate, or initiate a function of the mobile electronic device. So if you need to swipe or punch, then that's okay. If you're going to start being distracted by punching a whole bunch of different numbers, no. But the full paragraph here is hands-free accessories means an accessory that enables a person to use a mobile electronic device without using either hand, although the use of either hand may be necessary to activate, deactivate, or initiate a function of the mobile electronic device.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the bill sponsor. I do see that. I was looking for that in the bill, and just to clarify, that's in the Transportation Committee report, I think on page 2, line 1. So I see L01, L010, Amendment 10 from committee had that language, and the page numbering and line numbering is slightly different than the committee report, but I'm grateful to have that understanding and thank the bill sponsor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Minority Leader. Yeah, I was looking at the strike below that we did for the Transportation Committee.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 12? Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also would ask the bill sponsor to explain one portion of the bill, and that's specifically, it seems to prohibit a mobile device with touchscreen display that is designed to be worn on the body. So my concern is folks with Apple Watches and other things seem to be prohibited from having an Apple Watch or using it, whatever that means. So if you could explain.
And Senator Court, just one second. Folks, I think I need to remind the body, when you're addressing questions, I'm going to remind you not to address them to a member that hasn't been recognized, meaning you cannot call out the bill sponsor specifically. Just if you have questions at the well in general, acceptable. But a number of you have directed questions not through the chair. You need to continually go through the chair and not ask a specific member a question when you're at the well. Senator Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the clarification. But I am happy to answer that. The point of this bill is that you aren't supposed to hold the device and keep punching at it. So if you have a watch and you touch it, swipe it, but don't just sit there punching at it, punching at it, punching at it, you should be okay. But the point is that you are not supposed to be holding it and constantly touching it, or holding it to your ear and then not having the other hand on the wheel. So let's be real clear about why this bill is here. This bill is not for trying to stop us from talking while we're driving. This bill is about someone driving down I-70 at 65 miles an hour doing this. That is what this bill is about. So I think that the law enforcement of this state is wise enough to know what is clearly dangerous behavior behind the wheel and what is clearly not. So that's what this bill is meant to address, is the obvious dangerous behavior. You may use your electronic device, you may hold it, you may text on it if you pull over. If you are stopped, on the shoulder, you may do that. That's what this bill is about.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am curious also, I appreciate the bill sponsor giving us that last bit of insight. But Madam Chair, I'm curious if use of the device would be allowed at a stoplight, a stop sign. I remember in prior legislation, there was some criticism that maybe that had been specifically allowed, and I'm just wondering if this changes. I would share with you, Madam Chair, my opposition to prior bills has diminished significantly relative to Senate Bill 12, and I would be grateful, Madam Chair, if the bill sponsor might give us some better insight on that use. As you come to a stoplight, you're at a red light, you're at a stop sign, would you have to move over to the side? I generally do, but I'm just curious relative to prior legislation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very good question. We did remove that language because it seemed to create some ambiguity. So, in practice, if you stop at a stoplight or a stop sign and you pick it up to look at it real fast and put it back down and you keep moving, I don't see any officer that's going to argue with you. If, on the other hand, you pick it up and you start texting or punching in a number, I say dialing, listen to me. Talk about when dinosaurs ruled the earth. When you are using your phone, if you are stopped at a stop sign and the traffic behind you is impeded, or the light changes and you're not paying attention, then I think if an officer sees that, that might be reason to pull you over and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Again, we left that out because the law enforcement said it created some ambiguity.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm grateful to the bill sponsor for that understanding. One of the things, the phenomenons, the results of more electronic devices in more vehicles that I've witnessed is kind of similar to a person driving down the highway with their device and paying attention to it and not driving. But I've also witnessed something curious in that people who are at a stop sign, at a stoplight, using their device temporarily, when the light turns green, the driver behind them might honk. And they, oh gosh, I realized I was on my phone, I shouldn't have been, and they start driving. But a variation of that I've seen on 2 occasions, a person sitting at a stop sign or a stoplight on their mobile device and a vehicle going in another direction, not the car behind them saying the light turned green, but a vehicle honking at another vehicle that's coming perpendicular to them on a green light. And yet the person sitting there on their mobile device thought it was the person behind them honking, and they pulled out into oncoming traffic without looking. I, again, have had significant opposition to prior legislation, Madam Chair, but Senate Bill 12 is earning more or less opposition and more support, and I'm grateful, Madam Chair, for you giving me time to express that.
Is there further discussion? Madam President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate the conversation because this is exactly why this bill is needed. Because there is confusion about what we should or shouldn't be doing and how dangerous this is. So remember, in the bill, it also says that the police officer must observe, or the peace officer must observe the behavior. So that's an important component as well. With that, again, I urge an aye vote, and thank you all for your participation in making this a really good bill for the public safety of Colorado.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 12? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 12. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The bill is adopted.
Thank you.
Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of Senate Bill 129.
Senate Bill 129 by Senator Story and Representative Froelich concerning the regulation of online schools.
Senator Story.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 129 on second reading and the Education Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had an amendment that acknowledges that the Department of Education prepares the annual report and that the department sets the criteria for successor schools.
Is there further discussion on the Education Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 129 concerns the regulation of online schools, and currently there is enrollment in online schools in Colorado. The enrollment in online schools has increased 40% from 2010 to 2018 to more than 21,000 students. And additionally, in 2014, the Colorado General Assembly approved a task force made up of education stakeholders to study the issues related to Colorado online schools. And the report was submitted to the General Assembly and called for more than a dozen items that might be fixed to improve the online education experience for these now 21,000 students. And Senate Bill 129 is an attempt to address many of these items that continue to be problematic. So there are a couple of goals in this bill to make sure that Colorado kids aren't slipping through the cracks in the education system, and this will be accomplished by more effective tracking of students. The online division in the Department of Education will put together a report about students in the online schools and then present that report to to the education committees in both chambers. Additionally, there is an effort to ensure that students who enroll in online schools get the best education possible by adding some guardrails to ensure that online schools are properly certified.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 129? Seeing none, Senator Lundin. Okay. The Senate will stand in a senatorial 5. Senator Story. Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the bill sponsor for that brief moment to catch up. So it's, I think, important that the members understand that in public education, the online environment is one of those places where we serve students that are struggling with the traditional environment. And making sure that we understand the progress those students are making in that online environment is very, very important. There was discussion in committee about possibly getting to an amendment that would identify specifically the position, the capacity for reading and numeracy and those elements of progress that a student defines by achievement metrics as they came into the online environment and then as they would move on. And the reason why this is important is understanding the growth that we're getting. Is that student gaining a year's worth of growth in a year's worth of time becomes very important. And the reason I'm sensitized to this particular piece of information is frequently the online environment gets maligned or it gets considered to be something less than ideal. The reality is, in some cases, a teen mother who is unable to manage her life and her family and still get in and out of school sometimes is only able to be served effectively in the online environment. And so protecting and encouraging and understanding the value of that online environment is so very important. So the point I'm making here simply is that, in my opinion, the bill would be better served, and it would serve those types of students who are in non-traditional circumstances more effectively if, in fact, we had the ask and answer to the question of, is that student gaining growth? Are they making a year's worth of progress in a year's worth of time, and therefore identifying the true value of the online education environment? Absent that, I think this bill potentially runs the risk of not allowing us to properly understand the many benefits that are coming to students through that online environment. So I speak not hostilely towards the bill. I'm certainly not at all hostile to the bill, but I think the bill needs that element of improvement, and I will be in opposition to the bill absent that element of improvement. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Is there further discussion? Senator Story.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to include some additional details regarding the reporting element. The grade level at which the student was enrolled at the beginning of the school year and the grade level at which the student was enrolled when the student transferred will also be included in that report. Additionally, whether a student may have graduated or completed high school.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And that information is helpful, but it's not really precise enough to get to the issues that I was raising. It really comes down to questions of identification of achievement. A student comes in as a 5th grader, but they're reading at a 3rd grade level, or a student comes in as a 7th grader and they're reading at a 5th grade level. That's the sort of information that is absent and would be necessary to truly be beneficial for the student, for the system, and for this process. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 129. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 129 is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will begs the reports out in consideration of the following tax bills being second reading, therefore makes the following recommendations. Number 1, Senate Bill 12 is amended, Senate Bill 129 is amended, passed second read order and gross place accounted for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 182 laid over until 3/15/19, retaining its place on the calendar. House Bill 1172 laid over until 3/18/19, retaining its place on the calendar.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 012 as amended, Senate Bill 129 is amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 182 laid over until 3/15/2019 and retaining its place on the calendar. Senate Bill 1172 laid over until 3/18/2019 and retaining its place on the calendar. Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 32?
Senate Bill 32 by Senator Scott and Representative McCluskey concerning the routing of hazardous materials being transported on the roadways of the state.
Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to concur with the House amendments to Senate Bill 32. Sorry.
Senator Scott, can you please tell us why you would like to concur with the House?
Thank you, Mr. President. During the hearing of this bill, there was a lot of confusion, not on anybody's part but mine, on how many different associations and ski areas there are in the state of Colorado that don't belong to either association or belong to some other association. So therefore, the ski industry had asked us to clarify that, which we did. So the bill now includes, I believe, every single ski organization, ski area, bunny slope, speed bump in the state of Colorado. And with that, I would ask for an aye vote to concur.
Is there further discussion? The motion before the body is that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 32. Are there any no votes?
Go ahead, Steve. No.
With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the motion is adopted. Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we repass Senate Bill 32 as amended and concurred with. Please.
The motion is that the Senate repass Senate Bill 32. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 32 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Senators Tate, Gardner, Woodward, Hill, Bridges, delivery to the governor.
To the governor for signature on Thursday, March 14, 2019 at 10 a.m. Senate Bill 43 and 71.
Committee reports.
March 13, 2019, Committee on Business, Labor, Technology, Ethics, Consideration, and Merits Committee as follows. Senate Bill 155 be amended as follows. Also amended to be referred to Committee on Finance with favorable recommendation. March 13, 2019, Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology, after consideration of Merits Committee as following. Senate Bill 188 be amended as follows. Also amended to be referred to Committee on Finance with a favorable recommendation. March 13, 2019, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of the Merits Committee as the following. House Bill 1039 be amended as follows. Also amended to be referred to Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation.
Senators, will the Senate choir please assemble, and will Senator Gonzalez please make her way? It is her birthday today, so that we can wish her a very happy birthday.
Just us? This is a pretty lame choir. Come on. Senate trio?
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Senator Gonzalez. Happy birthday to you. Rehearsal will be upon adjournment. Announcements. Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Committee, those interested in Finance Committee, those presenting to Finance Committee, reminder, we'll be in the Old State Library, room 271 today. We will start at 1. Have time for you to go get your lunch and bring it with you, because we will have to then break at 1:30 for Education Committee and then come back. So we'll get as much as we can done in that half an hour, then we'll have to break, and then we'll come back. So we'll be in room 271. We will do all the bills on the calendar, including the marijuana sunsets. Probably who knows how late we'll be, but that's the way this calendar is going to work today. Thank you.
Senator Donovan, followed by Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. Continuing on the theme, Senate Ag will meet 15 minutes after the adjournment of Local Gov, because we have members on both of those committees. So Senate Ag will meet 15 minutes after the adjournment of Local Gov. We will also not be considering the appointment of the member of the State Board of Stock Inspection, because he cannot get here due to roads. For that same reason, we will also not be hearing Senate Bill 150, sunset public livestock, the sunset of public livestock markets, and we'll move both of those to next week. Thank you.
Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. The Farmers Insurance Colorado reception that was scheduled today from 4 to 6 p.m. at the University Club has been canceled. They will notify us when it has been rescheduled. Farmers Insurance Colorado reception canceled for today.
Senator Fields, followed by Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate Health and Human Service Committee, we were meeting at 1:30. We are going to be meeting in LSBB, and we have removed House Bill 1131 from the calendar. Thank you.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Education Committee will meet at 1:30. So several of us are in Finance. We will take a pause from Finance, go over and do Education, and then we will come back to Finance. So for my Education Committee members, know that we will do our Education Committee at 1:30, and then we'll go back to Finance. Thank you.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate local government will meet upon adjournment, but that about 1 o'clock, in room 354, and we are going to be hearing bills in this order. House Bill 1078, House Bill 1052, House Bill 1170, Senate Bill 159, House Bill 1035, House Bill 1200, and House Bill 1106. See you at 1 o'clock in 354.
Having no other announcements, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure all of that was very clear of when to be in which committee when today. Bear with us with the late start and the work on the floor this morning. I think things will be a little complicated, but we will make it work. Please check in with your chair to know when those 1:30 meetings will actually begin, because there may be members coming over from a previous committee that is an upon adjournment committee, so please just check in with your chair about schedules. Mr. President, I move that the Senate recess until 2 o'clock today.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will stand in a recess until 1400 today.